What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Next Deal podcast. As always, we are here to help you find your next deal and just progress in real estate. Remember to like, subscribe, follow, give us a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify if you are enjoying this podcast. I'm your host, Justin Dossie. We've got Vince, our co host, as well. And today we are joined by Adrian Smude. Now, a little bit about Adrian. He's been investing in real estate for over 20 years, has done well over 100 deals, so much to the point that he stopped counting, which is always a good thing. You just kind of lose track of how many deals you're doing. Currently, he's a buy and hold investor, but more specifically with mobile homes on individual land, and he does this mostly in Central Florida right now. So super excited for this conversation. I think mobile homes is a very unique and interesting niche to kind of get into. And I had a good conversation with Adrian back in December when we were booking this about kind of what he's doing. So super excited to have you on, man. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you guys for having me. I love talking about mobile homes and all real estate.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you've been in this for a while, right? 20 years. Just tell us a little bit about like how you got started and how you got to where you're at now.
Yeah, so about 20 years ago, I started as a tenant and a really bad tenant. You don't want to rent to 20-year-old Adrian and his friends because we have eviction notices for parties
Mm.
like spaghetti wrestling parties, mud wrestling parties, pudding wrestling parties, parking a motorcycle in the living room. And by the way, all that's alcohol free. You just
Oh,
don't
I
want
was gonna say
Adrian
this.
and his
This sounds like
friends.
old school,
I
kind
was gonna
of.
say, I
Yeah,
was like, were
it's
you and
funny.
Will
Yeah,
Ferrell hanging
there
out,
was some
or
comparisons. We love that movie, and
Oh,
but that
Blue.
caused me to buy a house because we kept getting evicted. Didn't want to deal with that anymore, so I bought a house. First, I learned what the landlords were going through and why we were bad tenants. But
Mm-hmm.
something I did that was really smart is I rented the rooms to my friends and divided my mortgage up amongst them, so I would live for free.
Got
Living
it.
for free, not with mom and dad at 20 years old, is really cool. So I said a few
Very
years
cool.
later, well, can I do this again? I went to the banks. The banks, of course, said, yeah, you can do this again, but you're going to lose a little bit every month. Don't worry. You'll refinance in a few years. Real estate goes straight up. And all I knew is what the banks told me. A few years later, it was the about the '08, '07 crash.
Yep.
Prices were going down. I had that adjustable rate mortgage we all hear about. So my
Mm.
interest rate was actually going up, which made my little bit of month loss go to a larger amount a month loss. The long story short there is I gave the home up as a short sale. Obviously ding to my credit, ding to my ego, but my integrity was probably the more painful one. So
Mm.
I fast forward a few years, I bought some more properties, but that short sale stayed in the back of my head and I started thinking, well, numbers don't sound right. I didn't know the full way to calculate everything back then. I was still listening to the banks, but that's what got me searching for something new, something different. And I found the mobile homes at a REIA meeting, a local, investor club. So I had been wrong about the direction of the market for about 7, 8 years, incredibly wrong. But that's what led me to find something else like the mobile homes with land. And ever since then, I have shifted all of my business that direction because the short sale just in the back of my head, I didn't want to be wrong again and compromise my integrity. Ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me to find mobile homes.
Hmm.
Hmm. That's awesome. And that's what you solely focus on now, right? Is just mobile homes on their own individual land. I think is the important distinction, right?
Yep, exactly. So I buy and rent single units. So it can be a single wide or double wide, but one unit with the dirt. So it's a real estate transaction in Central Florida. Do I do a little wholesaling? Yeah. Do I do a little bit like just buy the land and resell it? I'm doing that right now. Yeah. Do I have some passive investments in mobile home parks, self storage, different things? Yes, but when it's outside of my very picky buying diamond and what I buy is a single unit with the dirt, I want to be passive. My
Mm-hmm.
active is very niche down because I'm not great at doing a bunch of things well. I'm really good at doing this really, really, really well. And when I start adding other stuff, I become less effective.
That's awesome.
Dude, I can't tell you how many times we have talked about that on this podcast. I've talked about that on other podcasts that I've been a part of, is that when people go outside of their boundaries, that's where, shit starts to hit the fan.
Hmm.
Um, but
And I
I
was
want
told
to,
that a lot,
yeah,
and it took me a long time to listen.
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I want to back up just a little bit, if you don't mind. When you described you got this home and you had your friends live in rooms and pay you rent, right? We all know that as being, pretty good real estate life hack to get your first deal. Did you did someone tell you about that? Like, hey, you should, or did you already just intuitively think, man, I'm gonna rent this out to my buddies? Like my first house, I did the exact same thing. I had a friend that I had live in my home, but also helped me fix it up a little bit because he was in construction. So, like, did you just get advice from someone? Did you just think of the idea? Like, what happened there?
No, most things in my life come from someone else to give me the idea, and I just
Yep.
take action with it. It was a family member that was a mortgage broker.
Okay.
He was doing that in a college area, and then I just did it not in a college area. So really, it became Craigslist before Craigslist sounded so scary,
Yeah.
and that's how I found my tenants once my friends started moving out.
Got it. Got it. Cool.
I even turned the laundry room into a bedroom, 7 foot by 7 foot. And that
Okay.
became the most highest demand room because it was $355 a month. Through a recession, everyone starts going down in rent levels.
Mhm.
$355 a month for everything is really cheap. So that always stayed full. And I
Yeah.
actually even lived in there for a few years. When I was traveling, I moved out of the master bedroom into the small one. It's like, why not make some money on the master?
Yeah. Absolutely. How many bathrooms was that house?
It was 2 bathrooms. I had 5 rooms total. The
Okay.
master had one, so 4 people were sharing one bathroom. I think that that's the max you could probably get away with. Having different, I'll say, lifestyles, or someone's a little bit second shift and first shift, so they're using the bathroom at different times. You just had to
Yeah.
start learning that, hey Vince, I know
Yeah.
that you're always there at 8 o'clock, so like I either gotta get in there before or I gotta go after.
Yeah. I was gonna
So
say, man,
sometimes you run to
all
the
those people
convenience
in
store
there,
because
the
you have to go to the bathroom and somene's in there.
yeah, yeah, hitting the showers after the spaghetti fight. I bet that was. I was like, are people getting hosed off in the backyard or?
Yeah.
That property had a pool, which I would
Oh, nice.
recommend. Do not buy a rental property with a pool, but I didn't know
Oh,
that
it
at the
sounds like a
time.
terrible idea. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
it seems like
terrible
there's a lot of
liability,
legal
and
things with
it's
that too.
terrible to take care of. It's expensive. It's a lot of work. It wasn't screened, so all the leaves go in it, turn into a swamp. And in
Mm,
Florida, you can't just drain it because our water table's so low; it'll actually pop out of the ground. So I had
Mm,
to keep water. I just hated the thing. It was a money pit.
mm. That's a good. I never really thought about that in Florida, but I guess that makes sense. Same reason you don't have basements.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
like. It seems like every place in Florida you do have a cage around a pool. That I
Yeah.
notice every time I go
The
down
the
there. Yeah.
leaves just massively fill it, and it's obviously work to remove them, but then it changes the water, and you have to spend so much more money on chemicals.
Mhm.
I made a lot of money in that house, and it was a great learning experience. But I'll never buy a property with a pool again. I've not bought properties. Everything else looked great except for the pool, and then it was gonna be
Hmm.
so much to demolish it. It
Yeah.
it changed the numbers.
Yeah.
Hmm, interesting. I'm curious, kind of, how you got started in mobile homes, right? Like what's your because the people that I know that do what you do, we had someone I think actually on our second episode ever, does some he does more flips. You're more buy and hold with that, but the people that are into those, like, they're very attractive to them for a reason, and that's their niche that they stick with that. So what's kind of been your experience, and why do you gravitate towards that?
When I was really searching for the main thing to be doing, I had that shiny object time. I already knew I liked passive income because that's what I had been doing for a little over a decade. But I was going full time as an investor. My coach kept drilling down on me. What do you really want now? And my answer was like most people. Well, I want a little bit of everything. I want some appreciation. I want some depreciation. I want some cash flow. And he kept saying, no, what do you really want right now? And the answer came to cash flow because I wanted to replace my wife's income at the time. I wanted to be able to live off of real estate as fast as possible. I never got into the fix and flip world. I'm not good at it, but part of that's probably because a big chunk of money doesn't sound as attractive to me as lots of small, predictable chunks of money. Because a big chunk of money, I have to go work again. And my whole goal is set this up so I don't have to work. I want to work. So the cash flow is what really attracted me to it. But I've gotten appreciation. I've gotten all the other pieces, but mobile homes produce a larger return on our investment is the biggest reason I really just got attracted to them. And older of the home we go, the higher the cash flow should be.
Really interesting.
When I say
Okay.
higher the cash flow, I really mean the higher ROI, our return on investment. Maybe not the dollars, but the return should be higher.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Interesting. And with the mobile homes, is there, I'm curious because I know you're not getting ones that are like on rented lots or in like big communities. What's kind of for people that have no idea what we're talking about when it comes to mobile homes, right? Like what's the appeal with that of having it on its own land versus getting one that's in a community around others?
Well, let me start out with breaking that down of
Yeah.
a unit in a community, the rented land that you mentioned. So it's lot rent, space rent. People call it different things in different parts of the country. But you only own that aluminum box. You do not own the dirt, and you're paying someone every single month to park it there. It's typically in a big mobile home park. Those are even higher return on our investments, lower dollars to get in, but you don't own that dirt. You don't get to make the rules about who can move in. The landlord, the park manager, makes all the rules. I have bought some of those. They were really good growth for me. But again, I like to make the rules, and we have these things called hurricanes in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And if the hurricane comes and wipes out the mobile home, I have an obligation to pay lot rent and nothing else. So there's one reason I like to own the dirt with it. Before I go to that, you could also have the park. There's two main ways to run a mobile home park. You can own everything, all the homes, all the dirt, everything. You own a flat apartment complex. The other way is you can own just the dirt and the lot rent that we just talked about. People pay you to park there every single month. I like that model a little bit better because you own a big parking lot and you have
Mm-hmm.
less maintenance and repairs and stuff. Then you can have a combination of the two. I am not actively in this space and it's no longer in my vision because the hedge funds got in years ago. Hedge funds have cheaper dollars than me. They create a lot more competition. I like to go to where there's less competition. There's also a little bit more government regulation, and they're getting hit kind of hard with some bad park owners getting news around the country. So they have some more spotlight on them.
Hmm.
The middle is more forgotten. The single unit with the land. If there's less people there, there's less competition. Less competition means I have to work a lot less to buy properties. You're gonna hear the theme from me. Like I like to work less
So
and
your
make
shirt
more.
does say lifestyle REI. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to travel and do different things, and if I have to work harder, it's just not in my vision to do. So
Yeah.
that is why I focus on the single unit with the land. And I think I forgot the original question as I got off onto those. So if I didn't answer it, let me know.
No, you're good. No, I mean
Yeah.
it was you answered it. You did. It's funny. I was like, what was the question that I asked? Let's get into that conversation and get lost for a second. But yeah, no, I think you answered it.
Yeah. You speaking about this is kind of like just got my brain turning. So I'm originally from Alaska. I still have tons of family up there. And the more and more I think about it, I feel like I want to invest in my home state of Alaska because I do have boots on the ground up there. There are a lot of mobile homes in Alaska, dude. Like it's insane the amount up there. And there's a lot of mobile homes that actually look like cabins, but they're
Mm-hmm.
still mobile homes. So yeah, it's something like it's getting my brain moving. Like I wonder if I could do that from St. Louis. It is remote, you know,
So say
mobile
Adrian's in
home
Colorado
investing
right
a
now.
thing. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's funny because I always point out when people are like, oh, well, it's too cold here. You know, they don't have mobile homes. I'm like, they're in Alaska. If they're in
Yeah.
Alaska, you can have them in Ohio and all these other states. I do have a friend in Alaska that has been getting into mobile homes.
Really? Okay.
And so, yeah, and actually, I'm going on a family trip there a little bit later this year. It's been my dad's
Oh,
kind of dream. We're bringing him there on a cruise.
okay. What? Tell
They
tell
are
me about that. We
everywhere.
gotta hit about where you guys are going because I got to know this.
I was like,
Yeah,
Vince knows everything about what you can do in Alaska.
Yeah.
I'm literally like the one kind of planning, hey, here's all the options, and everyone's kind of giving feedback, and it's not fun to be the planner and the organizer.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get back to the real estate, the fun stuff. They're everywhere in all the states. They're not so common in the cities because
Hmm.
think about it. Cities get paid tax dollars, and do they get more on this old crummy mobile home? I like it when they think that way because they charge me less property tax, or a 3, 4, 5, 20-story building. So a lot of the bigger cities are starting to push out the mobile home so they can get higher tax dollars. But then the other
Mm,
side of their mouth, they say, "Oh, we want affordable housing." Uh, Mobile homes are the affordable housing, workforce
yeah.
housing, where people can afford. So it's a little, two-sided by the municipalities. Where I have found to be the most successful is just in the rural areas, right outside the cities. You get people that want to live in half acre of land. It can be smaller. We have some slivers of 0.09 acres, but they like the privacy of that. They don't want to live in the city. And a lot of cities are anyways growing. So
Hmm.
we have some properties that the cities are starting to grow into. So which means the land value is going up. I call those my lotto tickets. I buy
Mm,
the property for cash flow, let the municipalities grow, and then I know at some point a builder's going to say, I want that land. I'm going to say, write a big enough check and it's yours. And until then, I cash flow it.
hmm,
In the fix and flip side, I know that that is where a lot of people look as well. Everyone has their little different target for their different markets, but an acre and a half. Think about what's happened in the last year with interest rates that they've gone up. People now can afford less of a price because we all buy on payments.
Hmm.
mhm.
Well, a family might want an acre and a half of land, fence, they want their workshop and they want all their privacy and bring their animals, but now they can't afford the site built home there. And they're like, you know what? We didn't dream of a mobile home, but we want that land. So yeah, we'll buy a newer mobile home that goes on it. So the prices of those have really gone up in the last year or so. I've not like a lot of markets where the prices stayed steady or maybe even gone down. I've seen those markets go up a lot. That's in the fix and flip world. In the buy and hold world, I don't buy newer mobile homes because I'm buying them for cash flow. And we can talk about the financing of the struggles of why there's kind of two markets with that. But I buy to rent. Landlords, investors have been struggling to find yield. So now they've been coming down to my level, as I joke around, and willing to buy a mobile home because they're starving for yield. So that has actually been pushing the prices up a little bit all of a sudden. So I've gotten appreciation because people are buying an income stream. And mobile homes, of the older ones that I love, they're a really good income stream.
Hmm.
Hmm.
How are you finding the mobile homes?
I was just about to ask that. Let's go with some practical stuff.
Yeah, I have bought them in all different ways. The online marketing, the Google, Facebook, the letters, signs on the side of the road. What I have found matches my personality the best is I'm a networker. I like to talk to people. I like to tell people what I do. If you're watching it, I wear a bright yellow shirt anytime I'm in public. When
I was
I'm
gonna
in
say
my
every time
buying
I see you
area,
post on Facebook, you have a bright green shirt that either says that or is it my wife buys mobile homes? Is
exactly,
that
it
the other
says
one?
my
Yeah,
wife buys mobile homes. If we
yeah.
were on this show and my purpose was for everyone to send me leads for mobile homes, I would be wearing the shirt right now. It says my wife buys mobile homes. And it's because it's fun, it's catchy, but it's my personality. I'm the person next door. I want to sit down and talk. I'm not the big corporate person. Like, there's people that want to sell to someone like that, and there's people that want to sell to the person next door.
Mm.
So I am a pure networker. I tell investors and realtors, those are my two best lead sources. Hey, I'm here to help you with mobile homes. A lot of wholesalers haven't want to deal with them, so I'm their go-to person. I will tell you, with the letters, I get very few mailers on my mobile homes, even my free and clear ones.
Mm,
And we know that that is extremely rare to hear that you don't get letters on a free and clear property.
yeah.
It is an underserved market. One of my friends does really well on the fix and flip side doing letters. So there's just not a lot of people doing them.
So we brought this up before the show, and I'm just going to bring it up because I am curious. Like me running a marketing company, we provide data for people, right? This is something I have no clue how to provide data on. So for people that are wanting to send mail, and I'm also selfishly curious for myself, how are most people or where are they sourcing that data for mailers? Like, is there a certain source you prefer, you've heard of? I know you're more into networking at this point, but kind of curious if that's something you know anything about.
For me, I was very fortunate. My property appraiser had wonderful data that you could just download into an Excel document and you could sort it
Hmm.
by mobile home with land. And that's where a lot of data providers have gotten it wrong when I bought data is they mix in the lot rent, they mix in different mobile home parks, and I like that extra challenge because we know a lot of people take the lazy route. And if you just learn a little bit of extra, go through it and sort a little bit more, then you are ahead of so many other people, hence why I'm not getting a lot of mailers.
Which you should
You
also
set
be doing
yourself apart
anyway
when
if you're
you
sending
just do
mail.
that extra step.
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes sense because I tell people all the time, like, you should be spending the most time on your list before you send it. Like if you want the best results, best response rates, deals, all that kind of stuff, you can't just download a list from list source and expect it to be perfect, right? Like there's some
Shotgun
sorting
it.
and filtering. Yeah, exactly. Shotgun approach. Like it works, but your
If you
marketing
have a
dollars
huge
can go a
budget,
lot
it
further.
works.
Right, exactly. Your marketing dollars can go a lot farther if you're not doing that and you're more strategic on it.
And one way I know that I did not do really well with mailers, there's two things I did. I tried to do it all in house, and we could never keep up. And
Yep.
the other one is I did not do the 6 month plan that we are going to mail them over and over and over. The follow up, I failed at that. And looking back, those are the two reasons I wasn't super successful with the mailers. We should have never, I mean, we were super frugal trying to print them over and over and then the printer jam. I mean, I think we probably spent more money with that mess. But when
Yeah, I get that.
you don't have a big budget, you're trying to figure out these ways. I mean, even with the signs, I used to take them and spray paint them and then write over it. I
Hmm.
don't think I saved much money, but it
Yeah.
sounded good at the time. Time
Mm.
wise, I spent a lot more time. But really, your difference of your marketing, no matter what you choose, is you change the word house to mobile home. You tell people exactly what you want to buy.
Yep.
They can all work, but you have to say, I buy mobile home. We buy mobile
Mm,
homes. All my marketing says that. But at the beginning, I did mention I have other investments. But I want to tell everyone that because I want them to only think of me for my one main niche. I buy mobile homes.
yep.
If you tell them everything, they get confused and they don't remember you. One niche over and over and over again, like a broken record, which is why we have to send the mailers over and
I
over and over
love it.
again.
Yeah.
I
I know
love
it
it.
used to be like 6 or 7 touches. I think it's probably gone up by now. I mean,
Oh, for
you
sure.
guys know better than me, but we
Yeah.
get inundated with marketing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're hitting a list at least a minimum of 4 times
Okay.
before we're like doing anything. But then even after that, like on our follow ups and stuff too, dude, it's 10 to 20 follow ups on some of these deals, right? Before they're getting done, and like we've done. So it's funny that you bring this that we have you on. I think since the last time you and I spoke, we actually had a mobile home deal come under contract down in Baton Rouge on land. I looking at it, I was like, "There's no way we're going to make anything off of this deal. Like this makes no sense to me." It was one that I think it's like in a floodplain maybe because it was on like big cinder blocks and like
Mm.
maybe 6 feet up off the ground. And it just looked kind of rickety. Inside was nice. Like everything else was pretty good with it. I think we made like 50 grand on it by selling it. Like we put a little bit of work into it. And I was like, we might need to target this a little bit more down there. Cause similar thing. I don't think it is an underserved kind of asset class that most people just kind of skip over, or they see the lead come in and they're like, no, I don't want to deal with that.
Baton Rouge deals with hurricanes as well, so I'm sure that's why it was up
Yeah.
on the cinder blocks with, whenever, like, what do they call that? The tides or the when it floods
Yeah.
after a hurricane. Yeah.
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 It was
My very first mobile home quote unquote deal is I had this lead, didn't think there's any value there, and I just gave it to a friend. He had pulled a lot of comms, he had helped me a lot. He's a very experienced investor. I didn't see any value there. It was kind of like a thank you. Here you go, Gavin. And Gavin asked me a few times, "You sure you don't want anything for this?" I was like, "No, you've helped me a lot." He's bought it and resold it, didn't do any work to it, in about 2 weeks, and he made about 18K. He almost doubled his money in 2 weeks. And he had a podcast at the time that he talked about this deal for 4 episodes. So it's like he shoved the knife in and wiggled it. But that's how I really heard and understood the value. The money, I don't think I would have been a focus if I just made a big chunk of 18,000. I would have been, this is the greedy side would have come at me. But people leave money on the table all the time. Think if you would have done that, there's no money in that thing. Or if you just thought there's a few thousand. And the other side of it is the good that we do. We're helping a seller out.
Yeah.
There's less people helping mobile home sellers out. And what I have found is there's a lot of people out there that just go and beat them up and talk really down to the mobile homes.
Yeah.
So we get to do good and make a lot of money at the same time. I mean, we get to do
That's
that
what
all
was
over
cool
real
with that
estate.
one. Yeah, and that property, that's what was cool with that, is it was someone who needed help. They needed to get out of this property quickly, and they were like, "I like just make me an offer." Like, obviously, we want to make sure it makes sense. I think we maybe put 5 or 10 grand of stuff into it just to kind of spruce it up a little bit, and just relisted it on the MLS after that. But similar thing, it's like they called us because no one else is targeting them or reaching out to that person. And I've talked to a couple people here in St. Louis specifically where they're like, yeah, I get them sometimes and I don't really do anything with them. I'm like, all right, I might need to get those leads from you.
That's how I market myself at the RIAs, at the meetings and stuff. I buy mobile homes. And I tell them over and over. So I get people sending me the information before they even get under contract. Because they're like, I don't have anyone else to sell this to. Tell me what you can pay. I'll go back and get it. I love that. They do all the work and negotiating. I'm not the best negotiator. I try to pay people what they want, and I like to do terms and some more creative stuff. But I'm not the hard negotiator. So it's uncomfortable for my personality to go and say, yeah, I'm actually going to give you 40% of what you think it's worth. Like,
Right.
that doesn't feel good to me, but there's people out there, and somebody they need to hear it sometimes.
Yeah. And
So
there's
if you're
people
the
that are good at it
wholesaler
too.
and you're getting
Yeah.
these, find the handful of people that truly buy these. Not the people that say they're going to, because they're not usually as loud as I am. There's mobile home buyers everywhere. I just happen to be the loud one with a bright yellow shirt. A lot of times I have found they're the old school investor that sits in the back of the room. They're there because they enjoy it. If they have hair, it's shiny silver.
Yep.
You start with those guys and girls, and then you'll start opening up and finding there are more in the room.
Yeah. I was going to say, anybody I do know that does mobile homes, they are very clear about it. Like super clear. Yeah. And then, I'm just trying to think for sure. The guy we had on the second episode, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but
Jacob Klein.
yeah, super clear, right?
Yeah,
He
it's
was
literally all he does. It's all
like
he
the
focuses on.
godfather of mobile homes or something like that, apparently.
Within the CCF community.
Yeah,
yes.
right. Yeah.
And I bet you he would buy a wood frame home at the same numbers. Because that's what a lot of times people ask me, well, would you buy something else? Well, yeah, at my numbers. I don't care what the
Yeah.
structure is. He knows how to rehab a mobile home. He can rehab other things, but he's looking at his numbers.
Yeah.
And you're just not going to bring us a wood frame or a concrete home at the same numbers that we get in mobile homes because there's less demand. And there's some other challenges there. The financing, which we should talk about, and the insurance. That's a big topic. Like Baton Rouge would be an insurance problem like Florida is. I'm not sure which one of those you want to go into first.
Let's do the first one. Let's cover the first one. Then we can go into insurance after that.
Okay. So financing. I like to separate it in two buckets. The 1960s and 1970s, the age of the homes, because there's essentially no financing in those bank-wise. There's a very important year in the mobile home space. It's June 15th, 1976. It's not my birthday. It is the year that HUD, the federal government, jumped in and said, we're going to make a standard for these things. It's a good thing that the government did. I know we're not always a fan of everything the government does, but this one was actually good. They raised the standard. They got rid of aluminum wiring. Banks will not go back past that year. But to get a bank that's going to finance even a 1978 or even the low 80s is going to be a little bit of a challenge. You need to go to your community banks, your credit unions, and then ask for exactly what is needed for them to finance it. A lot of times, the cost to get it to the financeable quality the inspection is going to pass is too much to make money with. So how do we finance most of them? Private money and owner financing. And then I'm not afraid to use some of my own cash, but cash runs out, and when you're in growth mode, you don't usually have it. Owner financing. The owners of the 1960s and 70s mobile homes, they know that banks don't finance them. So I don't get the pushback, well, why don't you just go to a bank? Like everyone has said for the last 10 or 15 years, because they've been right. The banks have been super cheap. The mobile home space, I don't get that pushback. A lot of them bought with owner financing. So they actually know a lot more than maybe even investors that have only been in the business for 5-10 years because they've done an owner financing deal already. A little pro tip there is I never call owner financing. I call it payments. Sounds simple. It doesn't imply interest. I like to start my interest at like 0 and have you talk me up instead of start somewhere else. So I offer the opportunity for payments on whatever you're asking as your price. The other one is private money, friends and family that have extra money sitting around. We already talked about that mobile homes produce a higher return on our investment. So the interest rate doesn't matter as much. My first private money, we did the math when I paid him off about a year ago. He made 17.5% on his money. And how did I make money with that? I had $500 in the deal, making $220 a month. Who had the better deal? I mean, we both had a fantastic deal there. I was able to give away a higher return. Obviously, now I've proven myself and I don't pay that much, but a lot of my deals I still could. The private money is friends and family, and you get to have a conversation that works for both of you. And I just feel good when I know where the check is going versus Bank of America or somewhere. It doesn't feel as good when I write a check there.
Yeah.
Now, the bigger banks, the fix and flip side, because you have to have a bank if you're going to fix and flip, unless you're going to fix and owner finance out. And if you're going to do any of that, you have to do Dodd-Frank. They still comply in that world of the owner financing. You can only do so many a year. But if you're going to really want to get cash out as a traditional fix and flip, you need to know what they require. So it's mainly going to go down onto the insurance. One of the requirements are going to be the piers. So just like a wood frame home, the blocks that all the weight sits on, but then also the straps. It can be a metal strap that's physically wrapped around the I-beam, like the trailer portion underneath, and then it gets anchored in the ground. Newer homes, they're built into the home. They literally run through the entire wall, up through the roof, and down the other side, and then it's anchored in the ground. They make new mobile homes that can withstand 165 mile per hour wind. So that's a really strong hurricane or tornado.
Yeah.
I don't buy those because I'm looking for a higher return on my investment. But there's a risk level that everyone takes. You know, you don't want to worry at night if a hurricane's coming through. I've done that when I was in growth mode, and it's not fun. So that's why we buy at the right numbers. If it can't get insurance, it can't get traditional financing. That's why we make a higher return because we have more challenges. There's less options out there. That's the financing, kind of the two worlds. The 80s kind of are a mix here and there. With the straps, you do need to find out what the local, your municipality requires. In Florida, it does even change depending on where you're at. Closer you are to the shores, like you're in the Keys, it's different requirements because you have stronger hurricanes, and it's how
Yeah.
far apart. And then there's a few other little changes, but it's not that difficult. You just have to know what it is for your area.
Okay. That's good to know.
So the insurance is the
Insurance.
other fun topic. Uh, Florida and the Baton Rouge, New Orleans area, the flood areas, the areas that like were actually under sea level at some parts.
Yeah.
Insurance has become a problem. Those hurricanes again. Florida insurance got really challenging the first of this year of 2024. They basically said we're pulling out of the state of Florida for mobile homes.
Hmm.
My older ones, the 1960s and 70s, we have moved to self-insuring. I only get liability coverage. I still sleep well at night with that. Luckily, I bought them right to have the right numbers for that risk. And I think insurance a lot is about how do you sleep at night. I am more concerned with Sue Happy America, so liability, than the hurricane. The hurricane is a risk. A fire is a risk. A tree falling out is a risk. But one of my mentors, he kind of helped shift my mindset when he said, well, there's 1965 still sitting around. Like, yeah, what's your point? He's like, they've been through more hurricanes than you. It's
Such
true.
a good point.
There is a risk still,
Very
so I
good
don't want
point.
to like make it too light of a topic. But there are still a lot there.
Hmm.
That's one reason I like the home and land together, because worst case, we lose the home. I have some dirt that I still own. And I can go and do something with the dirt. I can move another one there. I can sell the dirt. But there's something there. And it's one reason we have to make a really high return if we have the rented land, because we have a higher risk.
Hmm.
If you're fix
So
and flipping, you need to know what insurance can be had on the properties before you buy it, so your buyer, when you finish working on it, can actually get insurance. Because if they can't get insurance, how are you going to sell it? You now
Yeah.
have to sell it like on some type of owner financing with no insurance. That sounds risky to me, and it's not, in my vision, have that much risk unless I had like almost no dollars in it.
so I got all the questions right now. I'm trying to formulate which one to go. How
I
does
look at
big
this as actually
insurance how does big
this problem
insurance
that's
go
gotten
in?
bigger. I look at it as an opportunity. More people are going to be scared out of this niche or not be able to take that risk, and I'll just buy at a lower price.
Mm-hmm.
I will buy with no insurance, where I get only the liability, but the price I can pay just went down, and the wholesalers in my area are struggling with that. I'm like, well, if you find me insurance I can get, then I can pay your price that I could pay last year. I can't pay that now because I just got an added risk,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have another option, so they're having to go back and have a hard conversation with the seller.
Hmm.
So how does big insurance come in and just say we're not insuring this anymore cold turkey? There's not like a time frame on, hey,
No exit
come
plan.
2025 guys, we're not, like, it's just literally they pull the rug right out from under you and say we're not insuring you
Yeah,
anymore. What a
Florida
dick.
is
Sorry.
Florida's a nightmare in insurance. I mean, we get the laughing stock of a lot of topics, and
Mm-hmm.
right now it's insurance. It's been going on for a few years where everyone's suing everyone. When I mean everyone, I mean the insurance, the government, the roofers. What I understand it from some friends that own insurance companies, the insurance companies have been charging too low of a premium for a long time, not just mobile homes, the whole state in general. And then we were not paying the right amount. Then they got hit really hard on some hurricanes, the last two hurricanes, and it messed up their for profit.
Mm-hmm.
We forget that sometimes. Their
Yeah.
business is to make money. And when they messed all up, the underwriter for the company that we mainly used just said, we're not going to be insuring mobile homes anymore, and we're pulling out. So they did give us a 2 month notice, but it was a scramble.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We've been dealing with an insurance problem since about April of 2023 between premiums skyrocketing, which is not just the mobile home space. That's all of Florida. They were going up like 40% in some areas. But that's why we buy from the beginning with safe numbers. Not that we're going to make $35 or even $100 a month, because an insurance premium alone or taxes alone can wipe that profit out. Because I baked in real good profits, I can still make money. I don't put my lenders at risk of me defaulting because all of a sudden I'm in the negative.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very conservative, which people laugh at because I'm in the mobile home space. My spreadsheet is very conservative because I'm not going to compromise my integrity again. I plan for these numbers. An example is a property that we bought recently. I ran my rent at $1,500 a month. That's what I predicted I would be able to rent it at. Very conservative, because I also think that we're in a recession or close to it. And I think at that time we're going to have to kind of lower some rents to keep really good people in there. But we have that property on the market and we are getting applications at $1,850 a month. Has $350 more than I ran my math to make money with. That $350 is bonus until I have to lower it, because I'm not going to compromise my integrity again. I see too many people just squeaking out the best case scenarios with just a little bit of profit. And that scares me. Scares me a lot more than a 1960s mobile home in a hurricane.
Yeah. Well, and you've been there too, like you said, in 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
You've been there. Yeah.
It hurt then, but it's one of the best things that's happened to me business wise.
I'm sure. Learned a ton from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, want to switch gears just a little bit. So, you buy mobile homes, any age, any condition, any size land. What's like your favorite? Like you see it and you're like, ooh, yeah. Like what kind of gets you going on that?
Great question. So I love a dead end street that has a mixed type of housing on that street. So some concrete site built homes, some mobile homes, quarter-acre lots, and it's primarily owner occupant.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a fenced yard. It has a little workshop there, because my avatar resident, the person that I like the best to live in my properties and seems to like me the best, is a blue collar handyman, handy woman. He or she wants a fenced yard. They want to, even though they're going to rent it, they want it to be their home.
Mm-hmm.
So not a transactional place where people are coming and going all the time. They want their kids to be raised with the kids in the neighborhood. So I go shopping for that person. So that's my favorite property. Now, do I like them an acre, acre and a half? I love those even more.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, those are at that, remember that 1,500, 1,850 rent? That is above the affordable housing space, just over it in my area. So I'm a little more cautious there, because in a recession, I think those numbers are going to have to come down a little bit, and that's going to get hit harder than the true affordable housing, the bottom numbers. And I'm conservative, so I'm a little heavier there. I like the other ones, the higher rent, because it's more land. And at this stage of my career, I'm willing to give up a little bit of the ROI for a little bit higher dollars coming in, but then some appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, at the beginning, all I cared about is return on my investment. I didn't have a lot
Yeah.
of money and I wanted to grow super fast. So it depends on where we're at in this stage of our investing. But I like a property that someone wants to live in, not has to live in. So I don't go like by the old Trulia, crime map or anything. Do people want to live there? Like, they
Yeah.
actually want to stay there, not have to. And that's for all types of houses. And one of my
Yeah.
mentors, Lenny, he always says, when you buy your home, you buy your tenant. So if you buy a good home and a good area, you're going to attract a good person.
Good
The
tenant.
opposite
Yeah.
is true. You buy a bad home in a bad area, you're going to attract a not so good person. It has nothing to do with the structure. It doesn't matter if it has wheels on it, if it's 4 stories high, if it's, a single home. The area matters more of who lives there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a great point. That's, yeah. I've seen
Well, I
that
mean,
play
yeah,
out
that's
tons
the
of
way
times.
that's the way I'm thinking right now. Like, I want to get buy and holds where I would want to live. I'm It's just me. Like, and school district is so important to me that because if you think about the school district and a family's going to rent and they've got young kids, they might be there a really long time and be great renters, right? And if you can snag that in an area that's desirable, I know people talk about like, hey, start out in C neighborhoods or low B neighborhoods or what. I'm like, I'm not going there. Sorry, it's just me personally. I'm not doing it.
You don't want
Yeah.
to collect rent in a bulletproof vest. Someone told
No.
me that one time.
That's one of my filters is would I send my wife or my office manager there
So good.
alone on the weekend at night? If the answer is no, you can't put that in a spreadsheet or an algorithm.
Mm-mm.
If I don't feel comfortable with that, it's not a property for me. We're not going to manage it. And I'm not going to say I'm a pushover, but I don't have the hard strength, I'll say, and the personality to manage that style. I have friends that do. So,
Hmm.
they're ex-cops, ex-military. They usually seem to do really good in those areas where you have to be really strong and push back hard. I just wholesale those properties to them.
Yeah, yeah. I in December had a renter. She was in Colorado um, for just for Christmas vacation and stuff. And at the property, a neighbor called me at like 2 a.m. and I was like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" And all of the fire alarms or fire alarms are going off at the rental at 2 a.m. And I was like, "Wow, But this place is in a location where I get up at 2 a.m. I go there. I don't have a worry in the world about getting out of my car at 2 a.m. And going in the house and seeing what's up. And mainly it was just like one of the alarms. They were all tied into to the electrical,
Yeah.
so they're not battery powered. And just one of them went bad and just tripped all of them. Right. So
Mm.
I wasn't scared or anything like that to go there. And all the neighbors around there know me and are kind of my eyes on the home too, So it was really cool to get the phone call this at two. Not cool. I hated the phone call. I was actually
Yeah.
really anxious. I was like, why is this particular neighbor calling when I know the renter's gone? I was like, what happened? But yeah, like the neighborhood is everything. Um, Especially if you're wanting to be in this, game long term, right? Like I'm just not interested in scary moments, like that. So,
I'm with you. And I think that too many people rush into the business, like you said, they're taught to get C and D neighborhoods, and then they get burned out really fast
hmm,
because they don't like it, or they bought their numbers too thin, or whatever it is, and then they leave, and then they talk bad about real estate, or this thing doesn't work.
yeah,
Well, it's because
yeah,
you bought wrong. And again, there are people that are good at those type of neighborhoods. I'm not.
yeah.
And
Who
I have
was
friends that
that,
do really
Justin?
well. I just wholesale them the property.
Yeah,
Here you go,
Yeah.
Chris. Make a lot of money on it. Let me get my
Yeah.
little bit right now and put that money towards something else I want.
hmm, yeah. But I mean, in any neighborhood, honestly, you can get, you know, there's all kinds of people everywhere, and you can get weirdos in really good neighborhoods. And I've had it myself. Um, you know, got chased around with an aluminum bat in a really good neighborhood. But things do happen, but it's less likely.
Less likely, for sure.
Yeah,
Um, Adrian, I want to kind of, as we're coming to a close
wrapping up.
here, you are a best-selling author as well.
Yes.
And I think you have a gift for people as well. So could you talk through those two things real quick, and we'll let people know where to find you as well.
Yep. So I do have my book that I wrote for a few reasons. One of them, it's a storyline of me starting out as the evicted tenant, moving through to enable my wife to retire at the age of 29. And throughout it, I tell stories teaching about mobile homes. So it's kind of a story, an inspirational story, along with learning about investing in mobile homes. Another reason I wrote it is I was in remedial classes all through school. So writing a book was like the last thing I would ever think I would do. And I even told one of my fourth grade teacher. So when I'm in Plant City, I go to yoga and Pilates multiple days a week at the YMCA, and some of my teachers are in class. And I told her, "Hey, I'm writing a book, and I'm probably the last student of yours you'd ever think." And she stayed quiet, so I did not ask again. But I like to do things that people don't think I can do. Well, while writing the book, I learned I'm dyslexic. So if a dyslexic guy can write a book and a dyslexic guy can buy mobile homes, so can you.
Yeah.
And it's not really meant to like talk down on everyone. It's the inspiration. Like, I'm not that special. I took what I learned and I put it to work. And I kept asking for help over and over and kept going back and learning and then kept failing forward. The John Maxwell book concept is always in my head. I'm going to continuously fail for the rest of my life. As long as I get up, ask for help, and keep going forward, it'll work. So that's my book.
What's it
I
called for
have
people that are
14
listening and not
myths.
watching?
I'm sorry?
What's the book called for
Oh,
people that are just listening?
I kept it really complex, the name, How to Buy Mobile Homes.
There you go.
I just try to keep things as easy as possible. And it's everywhere. It's even on Audible. So if you love hearing me, you can listen to me on Audible, but it's on Amazon and everywhere else that
Just
I
bought
go
it
the
on
easy
Amazon.
route. I use one program that pushed it everywhere. So I didn't have to play with everything else. Remember
Nice.
that whole, like, I don't want to work a lot?
Yep.
So then the upgrading your mindset with mobile homes. We talked about the financing a little bit. We talked about insurance. We didn't talk so much about the other scary thing of they're all trailer trash, quote unquote. Which the quick on that is where you buy, not so much the stereotype. It is a
Yep.
stereotype. There's a lot of those, so I created a PDF to help upgrade your mindset with 14 myths debunked, so that you can at least understand them. Hopefully, you start buying them and making money. But at the very least, you stop leaving money on the table and you at least understand them enough to bird dog it, wholesale it. Just don't leave the seller hanging and don't leave the money on the table. So you can get that for free if you go to lifestyle-rei.com/ the next deal, all lowercase there, and then you can download it right there.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we include that in the show notes as well. On there. So just bought the book. I'm excited to read it.
Awesome, man. And I want to hear what you think of it. And if because you bought it, if you can leave a review on Amazon, people don't realize how much reviews help when they're verified like that. And the same, I'm going to leave a review for the podcast because you guys ask really good, interesting questions. People don't realize how much it helps the show because of the algorithms, but also then other guests look at it. It's a very underrated thing that people just don't realize how much reviews help all of us.
Yeah.
So I'll put that plug in there for you guys as well.
Awesome.
Go leave a review.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. Well, appreciate you coming on. If people, want to learn more, I know we've got the book, we've got the free giveaway there, but if people want to learn even more, is there a good place for people to kind of reach out to you, or where you're most active? Like, what does that usually look like?
Yeah, so on that same site, you'll see I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on some other platforms. Those just kind of get remarketed to. I'm more on Facebook just because I'm a Facebook baby of the age that you had to have the actual school email address so you
Had
can
to have
get
the
in.
referral. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm just that age. So I don't have the gray hair to prove it yet, but that's the age of us that are on there. And I'm all over. I like to help. So my contact's there. If I can help you, I love putting out content. I love getting on the podcast because you have to do all the hard work of producing it and making sure
Yep.
I show up and talk and have fun.
Yep.
So if I can help you in any way, I love this topic, and just go take some action. Learn some, take action. Just do it over and over and over again.
Love it. Sweet. That's awesome, man. Yeah, this was a really fun podcast. I appreciate you coming on. It's been great to just get to know you even a little bit better on today's call, and we'll get this all uploaded and shared with you so you can share it with everybody else as well. And thank you so much for being here today, man. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.